you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Folks, Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the LA Sings That Makes It Official. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you, doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as the rest of the world, because you're here to learn, you're here to grow, you're here to make your lives better and learn more and get a brain so big that you'll actually need to get a brain extender on Amazon. You can find that in the brain department. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss. Yeah, I mean, all the channels, really. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book success. We have an amazing young man joining us on the show. His name is his name is John W. Eli, and the title of his book is called Frac without a K, out April 7th, 2022. It is spelled F-R-A-C without a K, as that's the title of the book. So we'll get into it, find out what that's all about, and all the grand details there. Mr. Ely started his career with Halliburton Company in 1965, working as a technician for the analytical group while completing his college work. He graduated from Oklahoma State University in 1968, the year I was born, with bachelor's in chemistry. On returning into Halliburton, he served as a chemist and a senior chemist in fracturing research before transferring to the international operations in 1973. While in fracturing research, he was instrumental in the development of the first high-temperature fracturing fluids. He also developed non-aqueous energized systems, and in 1973, he was promoted and transferred to his first assignment overseas in South Iran as a district engineer. In 1975, he became a technical advisor, Eastern Hemisphere, and was transferred to Bahrain. He traveled and worked in 11 Middle Eastern countries in this position. In 1976, he transferred to Dubai, UAE. The following year, was promoted as a technical advisor. International operation was based in Duncan, Oklahoma, where his primary duty was to coordinate all phases of research with international field operations. He's now joined NASCO Services in 1980 as a engineering manager. His responsibilities included overseeing chemical and mechanical research for engineers, and since then joined a number of other services we'll get into. So welcome to the show. How are you, John?
Doing great.
Awesome. Give us .coms, websites. Where do you want people to find out more about you on the interwebs?
Yeah, it's Ely Frac, ELYFRAC.com is where you can look us up on the web.
And so give us a 30,000 overview. What's the side of your new book?
Okay, what we do as a company is we design and implement fracturing treatments. This has been going on since, surprising to many people, since 1947.
Really?
First frac was done. We started getting into larger treatments, and some of the treatments I was involved in the late 60s. But fracturing has been around a long time, and what we do for a living is, because I developed some techniques in quality control and so forth, what we do is we go to the field where most of our work is, in field operations, where we supervise the service companies for operating companies in the U.S. We work worldwide, been in every country except Russia. I've been most of South America. I've been pretty much everywhere, but just for whatever reason, I've not worked in Russia. I've worked in China and South America and Canada and so forth.
I imagine that it gives you quite a perspective at having those world travels, correct?
It was a perspective, and of course it's pretty up to date now. We actually lived 2 years in South Iran.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
When the Shah was in power.
Oh, really?
It was relatively safe. We were kind of in an oilfield, ugly town, but the work was very exciting and challenging, and it was very hot and not the greatest place on earth. And then I spent 2 years in both Bahrain, 2.5 years Bahrain and Dubai. They were quite different places then than they are now, of course. And I'm traveling worldwide. I got a perspective of how the rest of the world lives, and kiss the ground in the United States. Glad to be here and glad to be back and stay here.
Yeah. There's a lot of people back in your age that used to do Peace Corps and other sort of world travel. So sometimes they just, pack a suitcase and travel the world by ship and see the world. And a lot of young people and people don't do that anymore. And I think that was really important back then because it gave people a perspective as how valuable democracy was here and the freedoms that we had and how rare it is. And, to get that perspective of other cultures and how they lived and stuff. And I think more people need to do that nowadays. So in your book, why is it titled with the kind of funny title there, Frac without a K?
That's a pet peeve of mine. The media, I think fracturing was going on big time, way before people even knew it was going on. In fact, most of the producing oil and gas formations in the U.S. wouldn't produce oil and gas without fracturing.
Yeah.
But the media, when they got word of the evil things we're doing and so forth, they started calling it frac, F-R-A-C-K, or fracking, and it just kind of burned me the wrong way.
They misspelled the term.
Actually, probably wasn't the greatest title in the world, because people use this kind of for a textbook or for but I thought that was kind of cute, but it probably limited some of the sales of the book. But in the same context, everybody knows how I feel. I think you got something for a long time. You need to spell it like it.
It's your book. You get to do what you want, right?
That's correct.
If you guys want to read something else, go write your own book. That's my policy. How many years total have you worked in this industry?
If you count the technician work, that's 61 years.
Wow.
I'm slowing down a little bit now. I'm getting older, but I still love what I do and work closely here in the office every day.
Yeah. When you love what you do, it makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's not a job. It's a career. It's something you like to do. I like to play golf too, but don't have a lot of time for that.
I used to like playing golf, but it didn't like me playing it. My ball would always go in the water, and so would my clubs, and so would the cart. At that point, I had to finally go. I need to find a hobby that's supposed to, this is supposed to be a relaxing hobby, but I used to tell people, they're like, I should learn to golf. I'm like, if you know how to swear like a motherfucker and break things over your knee, you can golf. That's all it takes. So and some beers.
It's a challenging sport, to say the least.
Yeah, and some beers. We always used to get drunk playing golf, and then there was always that point where you get relaxed enough drinking to where you could play good golf, but then you'd have that one extra beer, and then it would all go bad. You'd always be trying to find that sweet spot.
Like maybe myself and my friends, I get to be better dancers when they get a little beer.
Better dancers. So what inspired you to write the first edition of this book?
I was in the industry at a time when there was some, I don't say evil people. There were things going on that shouldn't have gone on. There was jobs that were being pumped that weren't exactly pumped as they should be. They didn't pump the right amount of sand or chemicals or problems. And this was very disturbing to me. It just wasn't part of my life and my upbringing. And I kind of made up my mind before I joined NALSCO that I was going to write that book. And that was my first edition. And of course, it's not a major part of the book. It just talks about some bad times. And of course, that all came to a halt when some people were caught red-handed, and there was a $270 million payout against the the service company, and people, accountants, kind of stayed up with product, and you didn't, that sort of thing didn't go on and so forth. The warren business is that we got humans working, and things happen and things go wrong, and there's also a lot of danger, and there's a lot of things that control jobs, and there's technical aspects, and so we take a lot of pride in doing that the right way.
Now, in the book, you talk about several things regarding your accomplishments over your career. What's one thing you might be really proud of?
One of them was something in the last, 5 or 6 years ago, the Society of Petroleum Engineers gave me an award called the John Franklin Carroll Award, which is for outstanding work in petroleum engineering.
Huh.
And of course, I'm not an engineer by degree, but most of my work has been in engineering. And the other thing was, I think you mentioned it in the rundown, that I really worked hard and was lucky enough to be around with equipment to do it. And we developed the first high temperature fracturing fluid for treating deep, high.
Yeah.
Fluid.
Now, did you say deep high?
Deep. Typically, the deeper you go, the hotter it is in the earth. And
yeah.
That silliness about going to the center of the earth, it gets pretty dang hot. South Texas is about 300 degrees Fahrenheit at 10,000, 12,000 feet.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you heating us and sand and all that stuff. You know, I guess we owe you all a big thing because, I mean, one of the ways I believe, correct me if I'm wrong because you're the professional here, I believe, fracking was one of the things that led us to become more energy independent than we were, when I grew up in the 70s when we had the big oil crisis, which I think we're going to relive here.
Yes, that's absolutely true. It's pretty amazing the innovative nature of what they've done and what's happened in the last few years with new equipment and new.
All right. Well, everyone owes John Ely money. Tip him. Yeah, I mean, I understand there were some times where the fracking. What about these? You mentioned the news things earlier, and so I have to ask this question since I have you on. But what about there was a lot of the news locked on to places that seemed to, from fracking, they had more earthquakes, sometimes oil bubbling up into people's houses. What was the story on that from your guys' end?
The water burning and all that sort of thing had happened back east. It's actually going on because the wells they were drilling back in the 20s and 30s were actually cased with wood, and they weren't too isolated. And there were some cases where there just wasn't good isolation, and we've obviously gotten away from that. We typically run 2 or 3, if not more, strings of pipe that are cemented in the ground, and you get away with it. The deal about earthquakes, most of the earthquake phenomena is due to water injection, disposal of produced water, and it's you just have to stay away from that. You pump huge volumes of water. It's not part of fracturing. Now, fracturing is a way you produce oil and gas and water, and then this water has to be disposed of. Most of the industry now has figured out places where they can dispose water, and that's an ongoing problem that we work on too, also, is water cleanup and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, I lived in Nevada and Vegas for 20, 25 years, and one of the problems they have there is those old silver mines and the gold mines. They left a lot of the tailings behind, and the water. I mean, there's still giant pools of gold refinery chemicals just laying open out in the thing, and it's there's some of that going on. It's kind of out there for cleanup. What are some of the biggest challenges maybe you faced in your career?
Oh, I've also got involved in my career with uncontrolled blowouts. My condo, but my first one, which I have some patents relating to it, was Dubai. Rig actually was in 200 feet of water and it disappeared below the floor. And I came up with a concept way to try to kill that one. And we've used that in Syria, and we used it Was not involved with Macondo, but Ixtoc was actually a bigger blowout than the Macondo, which occurred about 10 years before Macondo.
Oh, really?
But I've had a lot of interest. If you don't have a wellhead to drive up to and put it out like Red Air used to do, you got to do it from the bottom up, and that's challenging. A lot of technology related to that. And I've been lucky enough to be involved with a dozen or so wells like that.
Wow. Now, hey, you ever watch that show Landman? It's on Amazon. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know too many people that haven't watched that show.
He's a great actor.
Oh, he's a super actor.
So you like that show? Is it close to reality of what
the landscape and the surface area is very. That's the real thing.
Yeah.
Some of the comments about, we watch a gauge and then when it gets there, the oil comes and all that. That's silly.
Oh, okay.
But I enjoy that.
There. That's pretty wild. It's a fun show, but I didn't know anything about, I knew Texas did oil. That was, I just kind of had the oil, Texas. I watched Dallas a few times, I guess, maybe the TV show, but but I didn't understand, all the stuff that goes on. And so that Landman kind of really opened me up to, the camps, whatever they call them, and the crews and, all the stuff they deal with, including the dangers of the workplace, where, you're dealing with explosives and chemicals and, you're out there in the heat, which probably, you don't want to spark.
I've been involved, and we had some people that died in a fire in Syria.
Oh, no.
It was just not paying attention to your business, but it just happened. But it is dangerous. So you work typically at very high pressures. The water we got coming out of our tap is probably 15, 20 pounds, and the pressures that we deal with at fracturing is 10,000 pounds or 15,000, and in some rare occasions over 20,000 psi. So
wow.
It has to be special iron, special equipment, and very high horsepower pumps. It's a pretty amazing thing to see all the equipment gathered up and treating these horizontal wells now.
Oh yeah, it's crazy, man. It's freaking crazy. As we go through the book, you talk about some of these adventures. Is it kind of a memoir, would you say?
Oh, I tried to. Yeah, I've talked things that have happened. I've been in some situations that you had to be innovative. I had to drive a car backwards at 40 miles an hour.
Now, what was that for? That sounds like a great story.
I had been on a job the previous day, and this is near Fort Stockton, Texas, and I guess I had hooked on something that pulled a hose off my transmission. Mm-hmm. And I got about halfway to McCamey, Texas, and the car wouldn't go forward anymore.
Oh.
It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't too worried about traffic, so I found out you could drive the car backwards. And I got almost to McCamey before the transmission just burned up totally. But then the rest of the story was they had some big dogs and some houses by. But anyway, I survived that.
Yeah.
But had lots of travel experience, and planes, trains, and automobiles part of my life. That's where you try to catch a plane to catch it. So see, we used to do these vertical wells, and you had to go somewhere just about every day. You moved equipment, move people, and move yourself, and a lot of travel. I've got about 3 million plus miles of travel.
Wow, you got some good cards there for your travel miles. You can take yourself wherever you want in the world. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how the world's going. Do you have any thoughts on the closing of the
Strait?
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully, I think we got some word that hopefully it may be over soon. But I think some people underestimated Iran's possible capabilities of hiding out rockets and missiles.
Yeah,
so
they've been preparing for this for a while, haven't they?
Yeah, it was such a shame because my wife and I visited Isfahan and Shiraz and Tehran and those were beautiful places. And that was when they were under a different regime and a different.
It's definitely a shame. No one usually wins in war. Let's see, what else is there to talk about for you that we have on the show? Looks like I lost track of my questions. Maybe they're down here. What do you hope people gain when they read your book? What do you hope they find out and learn?
I think you get a little bit of a sense of what's going on, particularly the stories, some of the technical parts. It wouldn't be too interesting to people, but the stories and things I got into in my career, I think will be some interest to people. They want to know really what's going on, of course.
Yeah, what's going on in the world, and just not the news of, I mean, if you make eggs, you're going to break some. If you make some eggs, you're going to break some eggs. If you make an omelet, you're going to break some eggs. I mean, things do happen, but it seems like with fracking and stuff, from everything I've understood, we're able to, we've been able to create tons of, independence for us, where we're not, living off social or Saudi Arabia and that.
What's happened, the reservoirs like in Saudi Arabia, the Ghawar field, huge field and very permeable, very porous. And these wells would produce easily 20 to 50,000 barrels per day fracturing. These wells that we're treating are extremely tight. If you got that right, and all oil and gas comes from rocks. And if you looked at that rock and you stupid enough to hit it with your head or your hand, you'd break it. It's really tight. But that's what fracturing is about, is enhancing the surface area, open to produce oil and gas. And by doing that, and particularly tying it in with horizontal completions and go over a 2 to 4 mile radius, you can produce a lot of oil and gas and achieve results that we weren't able to before. And this all started about 20 years ago when we started moving toward horizontal completions.
Yeah, horizontal completions. Sounds like my dating life. So as we go through that, oh man, what a geez.
Well, one of your questions was, is there anything can replace it?
Yeah.
And I don't think so.
Oh wow.
You must. And what we do by, if you drill into a rock and you got a 5-inch hole or 8-inch hole that's 20 feet long, that's not a lot of surface area open to produce. But when you drill sideways and go out 2.5 miles, and then you do 50 frac jobs of amounting to 20 million pounds of sand and water and so forth, you can produce thousands of barrels of oil per day or gas concurrently. And we've learned a lot, done a lot of things, and we still have ways to go in learning and understanding what's happening beneath the earth.
Yeah. What effect has the green movement had on fracturing?
Really, I not to get into a big story, but I took my son-in-law out on a job not too far from Houston. And he was just blown away because he couldn't even find a cigarette butt location. Everything was so clean. People were caring about the location and what was going on. I think it's the green movement per se, nothing wrong with it, but you got to understand we can't produce enough with windmills and solar that we need to run all the power that's in the world. At some point, we'll get there, and we'll go back with bringing the atomic system back into to utilize atomic energy. But we need this badly, and we need it, as you can see, what's going on with the price of oil, what this war that's going on, and just dropping 10% makes a big difference because we're trying to produce it as fast as we need it. Yeah. And sometimes that's really challenging, particularly when you have upsets like this.
Do we really need Venezuelans' oil? I guess they have a quality of oil or something that we need. It's like a heavy oil or something. Is there anything to that?
Venezuelan oil is is we call it high gravity. If you've got something like sling, something with probably 60 gravity. This stuff, some of it is what we call 10 gravity or less. It's very thick. And to get it in the shape to use it for gasoline takes a lot more refining than it does. And the crude, the oil they were typically producing from these shales. Do we need it? I don't know. We probably do. The problem is they've got so much of it and they really don't have the refining capacity. And strangely enough, we had all our refining capacity rigged up for handling Middle East crude, which is not as bad as that, but still pretty heavy crude. It's a big deal for the oil industry. They're actually building a new refinery in this country. It's the first in 20 years.
Yeah. I was seeing something recently that for all the liquid gas that we make, LG, I think they call it, for all the liquid gas we make, we can't transport it to other harbors or other locations like other parts of the country that need it because it can only be transported on, I think it was on 60 Minutes over the weekend, because we can't transport it because there's some 100-year-old law that says you can't move between ports with a ship that isn't American.
I would
Is it true?
say that you might ought to watch out for 60 Minutes. They might be telling you something that's a fib. Because there's a hell of a lot of LNG transports going forth. And it's a huge, huge business. In fact, one of the problems going on because of the war is the Iranians got lucky and got a bomb or got an explosion over in Qatar, as they call it.
Qatar,
and Qatar, right? And shut down about half their capacity. So it's going to have to work hard. But the LNG, liquefied natural gas, is this compressed gas. There's huge industry, huge facilities being built in South Louisiana and South Texas that are filling up transports and sending them overseas. And it's a big, huge business. You push my button a little bit about 60 Minutes, they say.
Okay. I wanted to ask you the question because you, like I say, you're a professional. So you've written some other books too. Do we want to get a plug-in for those books?
There's two other additions to this book. The first one, which was something about some of the things about it going, and then I had to update it. There's 10 or 15 years behind, and then of course I wrote this one. But I contributed to 3 or 4 or 5 books, wrote some chapters on fracturing and fracturing fluids and quality control and so forth. But mostly what most of the work in the industry and work on the engineering side, we write papers and publications. I've got 15 or 20 patents that I've got over the years, but the publications are a big deal. They give us a history of what's going on and let the industry know about it. We meet typically 2 or 3 times during the year, the Society of Petroleum Engineers, and then there's a general meeting, and then the OTC, people come from overseas and to see what the latest and greatest is on things like deep water production. We're producing oil and gas safely from thousands, 10,000, 12,000 feet. And doing that is pretty amazing what's going on.
Yeah, it's crazy. It seems like the technology is advancing and stuff and all that good stuff. As we go out on your website, what do you want people to learn over there? You got services and wells and employment. I think a few things. Tell people, are there any offerings there where people can engage with you in advisory roles or anything?
If you want latest and greatest technology as far as hydraulic fracturing, we're the place to come. We've done work to optimize treatments and do what is the big thing going on right now. Is we've done so much to increase our efficiency, but we also need to improve our recovery. What's really startling to many people is that normally oil and gas that's in a reservoir, we don't get these, particularly these tight reservoirs, more than 10-12% of the oil in place.
Oh, really?
We need to do a better job. And we we can just get a few more percentage by optimizing the chemistry and optimizing what we do, we're going to go a long ways.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting future and what we do out of that and all that good stuff. Thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate. I think, did we get your .com one last time?
Yeah, Elyfrac, ELYFRAC.com.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Okay, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
And thanks to Ronus for tuning in. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold. You can get it on Amazon or other great places as well. You can check that out at, it's called Frac without a K, F-R-A-C without a K, out April 7th, 2022 by John W. Ely. Thanks to Ronus for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTok and all those crazy places in it. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
All right, great show.